So let's talk about let's review the market. Of course, we've taken a look at how trade happened yesterday across the various segments of the markets that we track here on the program. But Eremonsele Aziba, an investment analyst with AfriInvest, joins us now to put a little bit of a flesh to these numbers for us. Eremonsele, it's great to have you on the program this Friday.
Thank you for having me.
So let's wrap up the week. Only 4 days of trade because of the Easter holidays, of course.
Yes.
And we've seen how the market has reacted. Is this normal coming back from an Easter holiday, or any holiday for that matter?
Well, like you mentioned, we have only 4 days of trade this week. But what we've seen is we've sort of seen like a mixed performance in the market, given that on the first trading day of the week, we saw a decline in the equities market. On the following day, we saw some improvement as investors were taking advantage of some market bellwethers that had declined from the previous week. But yesterday, we saw the downtrend continue as investors started to take profit again. So what we've seen is that there hasn't really been any major trigger to sort of boost investor sentiment in the market. But what we're looking at is now that more quarterly earnings are starting to trickle in, we believe this could potentially drive investor sentiment in the market.
And then it looks as if the numbers coming in are a little bit impressive, talking about those quarterly numbers. So let's stay with the equity segment, equities market for a little bit. Yesterday, Nigerian Breweries turned in its quarter's result as well. What's AfriInvest's thoughts on this?
Well, from the result that we're seeing, it was quite positive, recording growth in both top line and bottom line, and also sort of managing their cost levels, which is also good. Generally, what we've seen is the company has been able to adapt to the general situation in the Nigerian economy. We've seen some price adjustments upwards owing to higher input costs, and this trickled down to the overall prices at which their products were sold. So we saw an improvement in revenue, even though we also saw a growth in cost of goods sold. The pace at which it increased was offset by the increase that we saw in gross revenue. And also looking at their finance costs, they had about a 41% decline in finance cost, which was also good for the company, and this was one of the factors that boosted the PAT of Nigerian Breweries for the period.
Well, we're doing a pre-stock analysis much later on the program, and we'll be talking about that, how investors are actually reacting to that result this morning. But coming into the fixed income segment of the market now, the Central Bank of Nigeria held Treasury Bills auction on Wednesday. Same amount matured yesterday, so it's given and taken literally. Yes. But we've seen that the market has had some kind of liquidity, but in spite of that, investors have been kind of mixed, trading between Treasury Bills and the bonds. I remember that Robert at the beginning of the week actually said that that's expected, but based on how the central bank has continued to play in the market, did you think that yesterday, for instance, we should have seen a little bit of an improvement in Treasury Bills trading, for instance?
Well, yesterday we saw some slight improvement in liquidity levels in the market. So we saw some slight improvements in activities compared to Tuesday and Wednesday, where we had the debit for the special FX market intervention auction, debit for the bonds auction from the previous week, as well as an OMO auction, which squeezed liquidity within the system. This was one of the factors that drove the bearish performance that we saw on the first 2 trading days of the week. But yesterday's performance was slightly better than what we witnessed in the first 2 trading days of the week. Next week we expect to see some improvements because we're expecting a huge influx of liquidity into the market. The April 2017 bonds is going to be maturing next week on the 27th. So we expect this to boost liquidity levels within the system, and then we could see some improved performance in the bonds market as well.
What new trends do you think will be starting on? Because next week there's quite a lot of activities. For instance, starting on Monday, the chartered accountants will be holding an economic discourse on the economic recovery and growth plan. Do you think that the markets and indeed the economy as a whole are quite comfortable with what's going on from the monetary and the fiscal side?
Well, looking at the market's performance, I think a major factor will be what we can see from companies' performances for the companies listed on the exchanges to see if there's actually been any improvements in the macroeconomic space and how it has trickled down to the market. So this would sort of give a signal as to whether we're actually seeing some improvements in the market, and also the numbers coming out from the National Bureau of Statistics, GDP numbers, inflation numbers also showing some slight improvements in conditions within the market. So this could overall change the sentiment to some slightly positive outlook on the Nigerian economy.
So for the rest of, okay, back to the equities market now, most companies that usually investors use to gauge, how the economy is faring are mostly from the banking sector. And as of yet, we haven't seen any bank turning in its first quarter results.
No, we haven't. So we haven't seen any bank yet, but we still expect performance to be largely positive, especially for tier 1 banks, which have continued to leverage on size. Also the fact that we've recorded a lot of FX revaluation gains. So we expect the base impact to still boost their results for this year. If you remember, it was around June last year that we had the adjustment in the FX market. So for this Q1 2017 result, we still expect to see an improvement, especially in their non-interest income line.
So the results that are coming from Nigerian Breweries, is that supposed to give us a preview of what to expect from other companies listed on this index, where it is as a consumer goods index?
Yes, probably. We should see this sort of positive performance spread around the sector. I mean, even looking at the full year 2016 results that came out, they were actually largely positive, save for Nigerian Breweries and Nestle, which recorded declines in PAT. Most of the other players within the sector actually recorded impressive performances, and we expect this to be reflected in the Q1 numbers. We know most of them have adjusted prices upwards, so this should boost revenue. Also, in terms of the cost of goods sold, with the improvements in the FX market, we've also seen some improvement, some reduced pressures on their input costs, and this could boost their performance for the period.
Eromonsele Aziba, investment analyst with AfriInvest, thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your perspectives with us.
Thank you.
Our Business Morning continues after now. Stay with us.